Hello and welcome back to the Tiger's Great Journey Read Aloud. We are continuing our story of Tiger, and we are in chapter 6 titled The Meaning of Trust. After arriving at the dojo, Tiger found a place to sit and waited patiently for the class to start. He was excited about what he had learned since his recent promotion, but he restrained his exuberance enough to focus. Yesterday, Sensei had complimented him on the progress he had made with his kata, hand sandan. Tiger thought he was getting better, but until Sensei's words, he didn't know for sure. Now he felt confident and determined. Wendy called for the class to line up. Tiger checked his gi once more. He wanted to set a good example to his classmates. He remembered Sensei saying that leaders needed to set the example for those who followed them. Tiger bowed as he walked out on the mat and lined up with the other orange belts. His teammate, Greg, who was standing next to him, was talking to the student on his other side. Tiger nudged Greg with his elbow and looked at him to remind him to stop talking. Tiger knew that standing quietly is a sign of respect to Sensei, the dojo, and the other students. Greg stopped talking, faced the front, put his heels together, toes open, arms by his sides, and didn't move. Wendy gave the Seiza command and the opening ceremony started. Wendy led the warm-up exercises, and then Sensei had the students sit down with their teammates. Sensei said, "The black belt Shoka leadership trait that we are studying this week is trust. Please take a few minutes and discuss with your team the meaning of trust and being trustworthy. Why must a black belt Shoka leader be trustworthy?" After a few minutes, Sensei asked for everyone's attention. Being the class leader, Wendy was watching the class and noticed that two of the team members were still talking. So she walked towards them and with a wave got their attention and pointed to Sensei. They figured out what she was telling them and quieted down. Sensei directed the class's attention to Tiger's team and asked them to tell everyone what they had just talked about. Greg began to speak. Trust means to know that you can count on someone to do what they say they are going to do. As Shoka leaders, we are being trained to solve big problems. And to solve these problems, we will have to work together. We have to know that others are depending on us, that the success of the whole project is depending on us, and that we are only as strong as our weakest member. Thank you, Greg. That was very good. Sensei continued. Trust is having faith in someone or something. It is having confidence that the right thing will happen without trying to control it or make it happen. A trustworthy friend is dependable and responsible. It means that you can count on him to do what he says he will do. This is a crucial trait for a black belt Shoka leader because followers need to trust their leader. Trust is like building a tower. It takes a lot of work stacking up the blocks to make it tall, but take one away and it could come crashing down. You earn people's trust over time, but lose it in a flash. Sensei paused to let his words sink in. And trust is the firm reliance on or belief in the integrity, ability, or character of a person or thing. Trust is also important in our daily lives. When you get sick, you can depend on your doctor to do her best to make you well. Trust is what you feel when you tell a secret to your best friend, and you know he will keep it a secret if you ask him to. Trust is a word which can make a big difference, whether or not you have a successful team or friendship. To fully understand trust, you must practice it every day in the dojo, at home, and in school. Your class leader, Wendy, is now going to tell you a story. It's called The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and it's one of Aesop's fables. Wendy stood up and walked over to the front of the room. She stood proudly in front of the class. She had known in advance that she was to do this, so she was well prepared to tell the story. Wendy told the students about a shepherd boy who thought it would be funny to cry out wolf and see what the townspeople would do. When the townspeople came rushing up to help him, he laughed at them. The townspeople didn't like this at all. A few days later, the boy did the same thing, and when the townspeople came rushing up, he laughed at them again. Then, about a week later, a wolf actually came and attacked his sheep. This time the boy cried wolf for real, but the townspeople ignored him and the wolf killed his sheep. That night, when the boy didn't come back, the townspeople went out looking for him and found the slaughtered sheep and the boy hiding in a tree. The townspeople asked him if he had learned the lesson of trust. that if he told the truth, people would trust him, but if he lied, they wouldn't. As soon as Wendy had finished, Sensei asked the teams to discuss what the story meant to them. When Sensei asked for a volunteer from one of the teams to talk about what they had discussed, Tiger raised his hand and was called on. We said that trust is the strong belief in the integrity of a person or thing, Tiger noted. It is the confidence you have in someone to fulfill a task or the faith that something will do what you need it to do. That's excellent, Tiger, Sensei said. Tiger beamed with pride. Sensei told Wendy to have the class spread out to begin training. She told the students to do this and made sure that they were evenly apart. Sensei began the class by having the teams do a combination that he had prepared. They did it first at slow speed to adjust their form. Then they did it at medium speed to find the proper timing and rhythm. Finally, they did it at full speed to simulate actual combat. After working on the combination for 20 minutes, Sensei had the teams work independently on Hand Shodan, the first kata. Tiger was the leader of the Hornets, and Greg and Stacy were members. Tiger was happy for this opportunity as he remembered that one of the requirements for the assistant class leader rank is to teach a new student the kata Hand Shodan. Stacy was new to Shotokan Karate Leadership Schools and didn't really know the kata yet. Tiger knew it well and was confident that he could help his teammate improve. As they began, he noticed that on the first movement, Stacy was stepping her right leg out to the right instead of her left leg out to the left. Tiger pointed this out to her, and she told him someone else had said that the right leg moves first. He nodded, knowing that this could have happened. Stacy started to make the correction, but it took several repetitions before she got it right. Stacy was confident that Tiger would continue to help her get better. Greg was doing well too, and Tiger complimented him on his stances, telling him that they were long, low, and strong, just the way they need to be. Tiger was happy to see his team improving. Sensei glanced over and noticed how well they were doing and that Tiger really cared about his team. When kata practice ended, Wendy led the students through the conditioning exercises that were designed to strengthen all the major muscle groups. And then she proceeded with the closing ceremony. Class ended with Tiger feeling really good about his progress. On his way home, Tiger talked to his mom about what they did and how well his team performed. He told her that he really enjoyed leading his team. His mom smiled inside, knowing her son would be a fine leader someday. Tiger was exhausted and ready for bed. He thought about the boy who cried wolf and then took the book of the empty mind out from under his bed. It had been a long day, but Tiger turned the page, closed his eyes, and resumed his journey. So right now we are going to be heading on into Tiger's imagination in the second part of chapter 6 called A Scary Descent. Tiger and Blake trudged on and on. They were getting tired as they had been walking for many days. The road started to climb, and in front of them, large snow-capped peaks reached for the sky. They stopped to eat and looked at the map. Blake told Tiger, "Those mountains are the peaks of trust. It looks like we have to go right through them to get to the plains of endeavor." Tiger looked up at the mountain peaks and thought about how difficult and dangerous this journey was becoming. He knew he was tired, but he also knew that he must keep his mind on the goal. Not only will this help him, but it will also help Blake. Tiger felt responsible for Blake, and he didn't want anything bad to happen to his friend and companion. Tiger turned to Blake and said, "This will be hard, but we have everything we will need, and if we work as a team and trust each other, we'll make it." Feeling inspired, they finished eating, threw on their backpacks, and started up the steep road. Before long, it turned into a rocky trail. They continued on as the trail twisted and turned its way up to a barren ridge. They followed the ridge for about a mile when they encountered snow. The wind began to blow hard, and the going got treacherous as the snow became icy and slippery. Blake and Tiger pulled the collars of their coats tighter in an effort to stay warm. Tiger heard a loud rumbling sound and turned to Blake, who had clearly heard it too. Puzzled, they looked around but could not find the source of the noise. They kept on. When they reached the summit, they breathed deeply and began their descent down the opposite side. The snow began to disappear and their heart rate slowed. Blake suddenly stopped. In front of him, the trail disappeared. It looked as though a recent landslide had destroyed it. He said, "Tiger, this must have been the rumbling noise we heard." Just then, a large rock broke free from a ledge above them. It hit the trail about 50 feet in front of them and went crashing down into the bottom of the cliff far below. Tiger said, "Whoa, it looks like the landslide is not over." They looked across the debris left by the slide, which stretched out for several hundred feet. The trail then picked up on the other side, and it wound down to a small valley below them. They couldn't take a chance staying on the trail, knowing that more rocks could come plunging down at any moment. They backed off and looked over the side of the trail down a drop of about 100 feet. They seemed to have no choice. They couldn't go forward across the slide, and they couldn't go back without making a long detour. Blake inspected the cliff more closely and got an idea. He pulled out a rope from his pack and told Tiger his plan. "I can use this rope to lower myself down. My father showed me how to do it. We practiced a lot and I got pretty good at it. Once I'm down the cliff, you can tie one end of the rope around your waist and I can slowly lower you to the bottom. When you're down, I can pull the rope from around the tree and get it down." Tiger looked at Blake and then stared at the cliff. He was scared and not sure of the plan. Blake said, "Tiger, I know how to do this. My father taught me well. I won't let anything happen to you. I can show you what you have to do and then talk you through it when I'm down below. It's easier than going up," he joked. Tiger inhaled deeply and looked at his friend. "Okay, Blake, I trust you. You're my friend, and I know you want to help." Blake took a short piece of rope, tied it around Tiger's waist into a sitting harness, and showed him how to tie the end of the long rope to it. Blake threw one end of the rope over the cliff, walked around a nearby pine tree, and then threw the other end down. He looked again at Tiger and asked him if he had any questions. Tiger shook his head no. Blake made his own harness and then grabbed hold of the rope and prepared to go over the side. He put both feet on the edge, leaned back, and began rappelling down the cliff step by step, supported by the rope. After a couple of minutes, Blake reached the bottom and yelled up, "Okay, Tiger, it's your turn." Tiger yelled down to Blake, "I'm ready, take up the slack." Blake took up the slack and signaled that he was prepared. Tiger walked towards the ledge and began to feel nervous. He could see Blake far below, and he was reminded of how confident Blake was about descending the cliff and how patient he was with him in describing what to do. He trusted Blake. Tiger knew that he was afraid, but he remembered Sensei explaining how an empty mind is needed in life-threatening situations. Tiger took a deep breath and emptied his mind. He noticed a large blackbird drifting on the air currents far above. He heard the water from a small stream trickling. He focused on the here and now. Obstacles are things a person sees when he takes his eyes off the goal, thought Tiger. Wow, where did that thought come from, he wondered. Tiger's heart started to calm and his breathing slowed. He saw only the rope and cliff. His fear left him and he told Blake he was coming down. He stepped over the ledge, feeling the tension of the rope around his waist. He kept his feet in front of him, putting one foot below the other, using them to keep his balance as he slowly lowered himself down the rock wall. Before he knew it, Tiger found himself standing at the bottom next to Blake. And now that he was going down, he felt great. Blake congratulated him on keeping his cool, and Tiger thanked Blake for his help in getting down. Blake untied Tiger and then grabbed one end of the rope and pulled it down from around the tree. They packed up the rope, turned around, and saw the trail pick up a few yards away. As they started hiking again, Tiger realized that the trust he had in Blake had grown enormously. "Blake, you taught me what it means to trust. I put my life in your hands and you came through for me. If you had messed up, I could have been seriously hurt or even died. From now on, if anyone asks, I'll tell them that you're someone they can trust with their life." Blake stopped and looked straight at Tiger. He held his gaze for a long moment and then said simply, "Thanks, Tiger. I feel the same way about you." As they started off, the trail wound around and down the mountain. After a couple of hours, it entered a pretty green meadow with a small creek flowing through. They saw a nice campsite beside the creek and decided to rest there for the night. After setting up camp and eating a humble dinner, Tiger remembered the map. When he pulled it out, he saw that the word trust had appeared. Alongside it was an image of two people sparring. Both of the combatants' fists stopped short of the other person's throat without making contact. Tiger's mother knocked on his door and said, "It's time for lights out." As she came into his room and walked over to his bed, Tiger yawned and closed the book of the empty mind. His mom tucked him under the covers and kissed him goodnight. Tiger smiled and said, "I love you." And that's the end of our reading time today. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.